ルチャールのお兄さんが病気になった。イルチャールのお兄さんが看病して。
Hu Tao is the best pyro on-field DPS character the game has to offer right now. She is also potentially the best single target damage dealer in the game. However, with Dendro release, teams like Hyperbloom Team Comps can deal a lot of single target damage for very cheap. Today we'll be taking a look at everything you need to know to help you decide whether Hu Tao is worthy of your precious Primogems. I'll be providing some background footage of her gameplay throughout this video so you can get an idea of her playstyle and aesthetics. Let's first take a look at Hu Tao's kit and playstyle. Her playstyle mainly revolves around her E ability, Guide to the Afterlife. After activating this ability, she gets a few effects. First, it decreases her current HP by 30%. This is actually quite beneficial for Hu Tao since being under 50% HP provides her with some powerful effects. Being under 50% HP grants her with pyro damage bonus, and it also makes her burst hit harder. If you have Homa, she also gets a large boost to her damage. It also grants pyro infusion and an attack buff that's based on her HP. This means you'll want to scale your HP over your attack. When you charge attack an enemy, they will be marked with blood blossoms. This mark will deal pyro damage every 4 seconds. This also means that to maximize your damage, you'll want to spam plunge attacks to generate blood blossoms. However, charge attacks consume stamina, so you'll want to be aware of your stamina bar. Furthermore, in order to maximize your damage, you'll have to auto attack cancel by either jumping or sprinting if you have her C1. Now onto her burst. Hu Tao's burst summons a spirit ghost, which she then proceeds to use like a baseball bat to swing at her enemies in an AoE. It's one of the hardest hitting abilities in the game, especially if you vape or melt with it. It also heals her based on the number of enemies hit, which is important to keep in mind. Unlike other DPS characters, her burst isn't something you spam because you want to be below 50% HP most of the time, so that you can make the most use out of her damage bonuses and make her charge attacks hit their hardest. I generally only use it if I'm under around 25% HP, I need to use iframes, or I'm finishing off an enemy. And she can also finish off slimes, if you know what I mean. You might be starting to see a pattern here. Hu Tao has a different Infinity playstyle that can be rewarding when done right. She will help guide enemies to the afterlife with her high damage. There's one last additional tip I would like to give to increase your overall damage and to help you play Hu Tao optimally. Most people don't know this secret trick, but I'll share it with you guys. You're going to want to first go to settings and then go to this tab called language. I repeat, that's the language tab. Then click on this option right here that says voice over language and click Japanese. You're welcome. You can use this trick on Lisa for big buffs. Now that you know about Hu Tao's playstyle, let's dive into how free-to-play friendly she is. To measure how free-to-play friendly she is, I'll be using 2 metrics, her weapon options and her first 2 constellations. Generally, most free-to-play and low spenders stop at C2 if they really like a character. For weapons, any 5-star weapon with a crit stat on it will be great with her. Staff of Homa is her best option, and if you want to get a powerful weapon, Staff of Homa is one of the best all-rounders you can get for your account. Deathmatch is her best low spender option. Dragon Bane at R1 is good on her and extremely good at R5. You should use it over the other 4 stars. Her other good 4-star options are Missive, Blackcliff, and Lithic Spear. You can also use R5 White Tassel on her. Also, I don't recommend specifically getting Blackcliff Polearm just for her, because you generally can't make use of its passive on Hu Tao since she specializes in single target. Hu Tao has some fairly decent 4-star options to choose from. Now let's take a look at her constellations. So for her C1, there is a lot of debate as to how good or needed this constellation is. I plan on making an entirely separate video going more in depth about this. Her C1 is potentially one of the best C1s you can get on a character. It will increase your overall DPS and in my opinion make her much more fun to play. This is probably the only time I would ever recommend getting a constellation for a 5-star character. It's not specifically because it makes her do more damage, but more so because it makes her more enjoyable and easier to play. In fact, it's the one single thing that got me from being a free-to-play player to spending money on the game. There's a lot more I want to say about this, but if you really like Hu Tao, I would recommend getting this constellation. But don't be like me and spend money just to get it. Use your primos if you want and wait for another rerun to get it. Her C2 is a damage increase, but in all honesty, it's just not worth it. She will do so much damage already, so getting this is completely unnecessary. From her constellations and weapon options, I would say that Hu Tao is not entirely free-to-play friendly. A lot of her best weapon options, including the 4 stars, are from gacha or battle pass. Her C1 is a game changer for her DPS and enjoyability. I would say she's one of the less free-to-play friendly 5-star characters because of her C1 specifically. It's one of those constellations where it was clearly designed to be in the base kit, but then they took it out and made it to be behind a paywall to rake in some more money. They mainly do this with 4 stars, but Hu Tao is an exception. If you don't mind jump canceling or having annoying stamina management, then just forget what I said. Let's take a look at Hu Tao's resin costs and how much time it takes for you to get her online. All of her talent level up and essential materials can be found in Leeway, so new players won't have to wait long to start grinding for her. The Rock Frog boss gives the juvenile jade that is needed to ascend Hu Tao. However, this frog doesn't guarantee pyro gemstones. You're probably gonna need to sink some extra resin in and farm a pyro boss like the pyro red is fine to farm up those pyro gemstones to ascend her. For artifacts, her best set is the Crimson Witch set. This set can be both farmed for, or you can throw in some other artifacts for the Crimson Witch Strongbox. Very nice resin efficiency. You can also use Human Amas for a high charged attack DPS. Though I will admit that it can be a bit difficult to work around since you can't heal with your burst on Hu Tao. But it's also very resin efficient since the Emblem of Severed Fate is an artifact set that you will want to be getting a lot of on a lot of different characters. The newly added Gilded Dreams is also a good option, but again you have to work with its passive. Hu Tao greatly benefits from EM, so you want to capitalize on it if you're going to use the Gilded Dreams. I'd also like to mention that her best sands of Eon is EM, unless you are planning to run a Dragon's Bane on her. Getting a good EM sands can be quite difficult since it has a lower drop rate. You also want a high amount of crit rate and crit damage. Overall, however, her artifact grinding isn't too bad and you have some good options to work with. The next resin investment is talents. You're going to want to level up all of Hu Tao's abilities. All of them are very important to increase her overall DPS. You also want to get Hu Tao to level 90 because she scales with HP. So in summary, you have to invest into all of her abilities, get her up to 90, and invest a good chunk of resin into her artifacts. So overall, we can deduce that Hu Tao has a high amount of resin investment required to maximize your damage with her. Now let's take a look at how Primogem efficient her current banner is, shall we? I'll do this by judging the 4-star banner characters. It's important to disclaim that the higher constellations you have of these 4-star characters, the less valuable the banner becomes. Like if you already have a C6 Beidou, then this banner goes down in value. So first off is Xingqiu, one of the absolute best 4-star characters in the game. He does good damage, all of his constellations are good, and he can fit into virtually any team comp for Hydro. It's also fantastic that he's on this banner because he is Hu Tao's best support. Beidou is a strong character. She gets a lot better with constellations. All of her constellations are pretty darn good, especially her C2. She can fit into a lot of teams and shines the most when paired with Fischl. I can recommend investing into her if you get her because she will carry you through lots of abysses. Ningguang is what I like to call the bomb on this banner. Ningguang isn't bad, but she isn't great. She has a role in geocomps as a main DPS or as a burst support. She is good in her roles, but you might not use her too often. Overall, the 4 stars on this banner are actually pretty good value. Especially for newer players, getting Xingqiu and Beidou or their constellations will be a great boost to your account. Now let's talk about Hu Tao's character synergies. I first wanted to start by saying that in every single team comp, Hu Tao is paired with Xingqiu. The next 2 slots vary. Her best team comp is when you make use of double Hydro. It's especially good if you use her with Xingqiu and Yulan, as you'll be able to constantly and consistently vape every single one of Hu Tao's attacks. It has the added bonus of providing her with increased HP thanks to the resonance. The last slot can of course be this stupid unit we call Shangling. You can also use Zhongli or an Anemo unit. However, getting swirls to proc VV on Hu Tao can be very difficult and inconsistent since her E ability wears off when you switch. You can use her with other characters like Toma or C4 Yanfei for a shield and easier application of VV. Double Geo with Zhongli is a rock solid option as well. Unless you run Shimanamas, you always want to avoid healers, which is another benefit since that means you can use characters like Bennett, Diona, or Kuki on your other team without sacrificing anything. Overall, Hu Tao is a strong pyro DPS carry. Her playstyle is different and can be fun if executed properly. She isn't entirely free to play friendly and her resin cost is quite high. However, the 4 stars on the current banner are amazing and especially Xingqiu will be great with her. So you'll get good value for each 10 pull that you do. She can work with a lot of different characters as long as you have Xingqiu in the party. In my opinion, Hu Tao is a very fun and charming character that I resonate with on a spiritual level. There are obviously other factors to consider like the weapon banner and Yulan, which I will make an entirely separate video on. If you're fond of Hu Tao's prankster personality and playstyle, I would say that she is worth your Primogems. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please let me know in the comment section below. Consider subbing and liking for more content from me, but more importantly, remember to take care and have a cheerless day.